Sean Combs, known as Diddy, known as Puff Daddy, is about to stand trial in New York in May. Combs had his famous white parties.
So I moved to a new neighborhood and they were like, well, what's this guy doing moving here in East Hampton? I said, everybody, come on over to the house so y'all get to know me. You ain't got nothing to be afraid of.
Some of the alleged activity may have occurred in the later hours of those parties.
Kids have like an hour left because this thing turns into something that when y'all get older, y'all don't want to come to.
And there are a lot of questions. What he's exactly charged with, who's going to testify, what this case is going to look like. But before we get to those questions, we want to remind everybody how we got here.
Where we hanging out and what we doing, we can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. He signed the Usher. I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full crazy.
Going crazy.
Well, Bill and Sade, accepting a plea agreement would mean that Sean Combs would have to admit to trafficking and force. And today he made it very clear that was not going to happen. Diddy maintained all along these encounters involved consenting adults and plans to take his chances that a jury agrees.
At trial, Combs will ditch the jail garb and wear ordinary clothes. As his lawyers argue, the evidence shows consenting adults being intimate in their own way.
What happens is if people go into a trial believing the firepower on the prosecution is so strong, I mean, let's say on a scale of 1 to 100, it's a 95, that it's so strong, but it goes down to an 88. That helps the defense because everybody goes in thinking, wow, they're going to prove this, and they're going to prove this, and they're going to prove this, and all of a sudden, none of it's there. I think that actually helps the defense.
We have the latest from federal court in the Sean Combs criminal case. Status of jury selection, what Diddy's going to be wearing, violation of a gag order, rejecting a plea offer.
Federal trafficking, racketeering, and charges beginning Monday morning.
Back up a little bit, please.
How can you support your father? How do you support him moving forward?
Elaborate, sometimes days-long parties by coercing victims through drugs, threats, and manipulation. They claim to have video evidence, and some of the accusations echo details from over 70 civil lawsuits filed against Combs over the last 30 years.
Mr. Combs feels he probably is the only person I know of who might be able to actually accomplish that.
Now, as far as jury selection goes, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that both sides expect to have all of this done in the matter of 3 days. Now, given just how high profile this trial is, I was kind of stunned that they seem very confident that they will be able to see the jury in that amount of time.
Do you still think that, because there is this public perception, that there are celebrity tapes involved in this case?
No.
Do you still think that there are minors involved in this case?
I'm certain no.
Okay.
And again, when you say this case, we're talking the criminal case.
The criminal case.
In the
correct.
criminal,
I know that.
In the criminal case. In the criminal case, no.
What made you come here to support Puff?
I'm supporting Puff because he's innocent, and I'm wholeheartedly believing his innocence, and I know he's innocent. So
you think you know he's innocent?
1,000%.
She did, and when the judge did, Diddy, who was sitting at the defense table with his attorneys, did not show any signs of emotion. He took a sip of water before he was led out of the courtroom by the U.S. Marshals. Now, his lawyers have vowed to fight this. They are going to be back in court on Wednesday before the judge who will oversee this trial and try to get Diddy to be released.
Major developments tonight involving the case against Sean Diddy Combs, what he decided in court today, and what this now means, the move coming just 4 days before his trial is set to begin. Here's Aaron Katursky.
Tonight, Sean Combs makes it official. He's rejecting the government's offer to plead guilty and spare himself the possibility of a prolonged term in prison. When asked if he turned down the offer, Combs answered, "Yes, I do, Your Honor," as he stood in a baggy beige jail uniform. Terms were not disclosed, but prosecutors did say a plea could result in a shorter sentence for Combs than if he's convicted.
He knows The deck is stacked against him. They've got a ton of evidence. Take the plea deal, dude. Just take it.
Well, my guess is that, because we don't know the deal of the plea deal. At least I don't think we do.
True.
Okay.
Would you be open to a plea bargain?
Well, it's not up to me. It's up to Mr. Combs, and I don't see it happening.
Why?
Because he believes he's innocent. He believes he's innocent, and what's more, he believes that he needs to stand up, not just for himself, for his family, and for everybody who's been targeted by the federal government.
Diddy's lawyers had argued that he had made good faith efforts by showing up in New York, ready to surrender to face these charges, but prosecutors said that he could not be trusted, that he has a history of trying to intimidate witnesses, including some who are going to be witnesses in this case. They urged the judge to remand him. Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs back behind bars, a magistrate judge denying him bail, saying that there were no conditions that she could conceive of that would make her confident that he would appear again for other court appearances. The judge saying, "My concern is this is a crime that happens behind closed doors."
The decision guarantees Combs will face trial beginning just 4 days from now that will test whether one of music's most prolific figures used his power, wealth, and fame to exploit both women and men for decades.
Isn't that, to my mind, that's one of the bigger hurdles in selecting a jury this coming week, is that there is, at least anecdotally, when I talk to people, they have that opinion, strongly held opinion, that there's celebrity tapes, that they've kind of conflated Epstein, and you mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell and all of these things, into Diddy. There's this idea that somehow this is Epstein redux or something.
The last hearing before Sean Combs' trial starts, when he walked into federal court today, he appeared to be looking for his family. They've pretty much been at all of the hearings that I've been to, but there was no presence of his sons or his mother or his sister who had previously been at those hearings.
This is going to be such a massive trial, like maybe the biggest Hollywood trial. God knows which way it's going to go. Is it going to go on for weeks? And
oh, for sure.
There's a case brewing in New York that has everyone talking, and for good reason. Sean Diddy Combs, the larger-than-life figure behind some of music's biggest hits, trend-setting fashion lines, and outrageously lavish parties, is about to stand trial on charges that could not only redefine his legacy, but also reshape how we view power and accountability in the entertainment industry. But how did one of the most influential moguls of our time end up here? The answer lies somewhere between decades-old whispers, allegations tied to his infamous white parties, and shocking new evidence that has recently come to light. With just days until the trial kicks off, every detail, from cryptic radio chatter to time-stamped video footage, carries enormous weight. This story isn't just wild. It's a labyrinth of secrets, speculation, and high-stakes legal maneuvering that has captivated the world. And as the clock ticks down, all eyes are glued to what promises to be one of the most explosive trials in recent memory. At the heart of this case are federal trafficking, racketeering, and decades-old controversies that have resurfaced with a vengeance. The public can't help but wonder, is this another Epstein-style scandal? Or something entirely different? Rumors continue to swirl about alleged celebrity tapes and minors being involved, though prosecutors maintain these claims aren't part of the criminal charges at hand. What is undeniable, however, is that Diddy's legal team faces an uphill battle against what many perceive as overwhelming firepower from the prosecution. With mountains of evidence stacked against him, including newly uncovered video footage and intricate technical exhibits, the pressure to avoid trial might seem insurmountable to some. Yet, despite these odds, Diddy rejected a plea deal, a decision that has left many questioning his strategy. According to reports, he firmly believes in his innocence and feels compelled to clear his name publicly. But it's not just about him. Diddy has framed this fight as a stand for something greater: his family, his legacy, and others who feel unfairly targeted by what he describes as an overreaching system. His defiance signals either remarkable confidence in his defense or an unshakable belief that accepting a deal would mean surrendering more than just his freedom. It would mean conceding to a narrative he insists is false. To truly grasp where things may have gone awry, Let's take a step back and revisit the infamous white parties that Diddy became so well known for hosting. These events were legendary in their extravagance, exclusive gatherings that drew A-list celebrities, influencers, and industry insiders from all over the world. They weren't just parties, they were cultural phenomena, the kind of events people dreamed of attending. But beneath the glitz and glamour, prosecutors allege, these parties took on a much darker tone after hours. According to the charges, victims were coerced through a combination of drugs, threats, and psychological manipulation. The prosecution claims that what started as seemingly innocent celebrations often spiraled into something far more sinister, with guests allegedly subjected to situations they couldn't escape. Diddy, however, has consistently denied these allegations, maintaining that all encounters were consensual and insisting that the accusations against him are part of a broader misunderstanding or even a targeted attack. His defense team argues that the government is misinterpreting patterns of behavior that are simply reflective of high-profile hospitality norms. Yet, the prosecution isn't backing down, pointing to damning evidence uncovered in over 70 civil lawsuits filed against Diddy over the past 3 decades. These lawsuits paint a disturbing picture of alleged exploitation hidden behind closed doors, suggesting that the extravagant facade of the white parties masked a pattern of misconduct stretching back years. These accusations raise serious questions about the culture surrounding such elite gatherings and the power dynamics at play. With so much at stake, it's crucial to examine the evidence closely before drawing conclusions. What exactly does the prosecution have? And how does it fit into the larger narrative of this explosive trial? Let's dive deeper into the details to understand how this case has unfolded and why it's captured the attention of the entire world. Enter Justin Bieber, or rather, footage from his archives that's become central to the prosecution's case. A previously unknown video file, running 14 minutes and 32 seconds, captures staff movements, radio chatter featuring the phrase, "heartbeat reset," and restricted wing access at a private event linked to Diddy. Prosecutors argue this clip corroborates technical exhibits like router logs, linen delivery records, and email threads discussing expedited supply orders. These elements collectively create a timeline they describe as too precise and synchronized to ignore. For instance, the timestamps on the video align with device connections assigned to Bieber's initials, while moments of radio communication match patterns found in earlier testimonies from former security personnel. Defense attorneys counter that the footage merely reflects standard logistics for large-scale events, emphasizing that terms like heartbeat reset are innocuous internal jargon tied to routine guest services. They warn against overinterpretation, suggesting the prosecution is attempting to construct misconduct out of ordinary operational procedures. Yet, the existence of time-stamped video raises critical questions. Could this be the missing link tying together years of speculation about what truly happened behind closed doors? Or will jurors view it as circumstantial support for broader claims, requiring additional context to hold real weight? The answer may hinge on how effectively each side frames the footage during closing arguments and whether the jury perceives it as decisive corroboration or an isolated snapshot of high-profile hospitality logistics. If you think Diddy's lawyers are backing down, think again. They're hitting back hard, questioning everything from the authenticity of the Bieber footage to the relevance of linen shortages discussed in passing. Their strategy hinges on portraying each piece of evidence as innocuous, a fragment taken out of context. For instance, they argue terms like heartbeat reset refer to routine guest services, not covert operations. They've also challenged the prosecution's interpretation of technical data, such as router logs and door sensor downtimes, suggesting these are standard operational procedures for high-profile events rather than evidence of misconduct. Meanwhile, Diddy himself remains steadfast, rejecting a plea deal despite facing staggering odds. His message is clear. He won't admit to something he insists he didn't do, even if it means risking it all at trial. Diddy's legal team has doubled down on their argument that the charges are an overreach by prosecutors attempting to criminalize what they describe as elite hospitality norms. They've signaled plans to highlight inconsistencies in witness testimonies and emphasize the lack of direct evidence tying Diddy to any unlawful activity. This bold stance reflects not only his confidence in his innocence, but also his determination to fight for his legacy and for others who feel unfairly targeted by the justice system. As the trial approaches, both sides are pulling out all the stops, leaving no stone unturned in their quest to secure a favorable outcome. Jury selection has become a critical battleground, with concerns mounting over how deeply preconceived notions have been shaped by relentless media coverage. The prosecution and defense are bracing for a challenge in finding impartial jurors, especially given the swirling rumors and sensational headlines that have dominated public discourse. Adding to the tension, magistrate judges denied Diddy bail, pointing to serious concerns about potential witness intimidation, a claim prosecutors have doubled down on, citing past allegations of similar behavior tied to his inner circle. Further complicating matters is the late-breaking revelation of the Justin Bieber footage, which has thrown both sides into a frenzy. Defense attorneys argue that the timing of this disclosure severely impairs their ability to prepare an effective rebuttal. They've raised objections in court, claiming that introducing such a significant piece of evidence so close to the trial unfairly stacks the deck against their client. Will the judge allow the jury to view the full 14-minute clip, or will they be limited to sanitized excerpts carefully curated to avoid prejudice? Either way, the stakes couldn't be higher for Diddy. His fate now hinges on whether jurors interpret the footage as decisive corroboration of the prosecution's claims or as misunderstood snapshots of routine logistics at a high-profile event. With just days until opening arguments, the courtroom drama shows no signs of slowing down. This trial isn't just about Diddy. It's a wake-up call for the entire entertainment industry. Private event insurers are already revising their policies, now requiring continuous video coverage for guest corridors to ensure transparency and accountability. Calls for statutory protections are gaining significant momentum, with advocacy groups pushing for independent compliance officers to oversee private music events. These officers would act as watchdogs, ensuring that safety protocols are followed and that all guests are treated fairly. Meanwhile, venue owners have voiced cautious support for these measures, but only if liability caps accompany any new mandates, protecting them from excessive financial exposure in case of unforeseen incidents. Even the property, where the Bieber footage was recorded, is undergoing a transformation. The residence, identified in earlier filings, has already been transferred into nonprofit ownership following a court-approved forfeiture sale. Renovation plans are underway, with organizers stating that the guest wing corridor captured in the Bieber footage will be preserved as a training exhibit. This space will serve as an educational tool, demonstrating the importance of transparent egress routes and proper documentation practices during high-profile gatherings. Regardless of the verdict, this case marks a turning point, not just for Diddy, but for how power, accountability, and transparency intersect in Hollywood. Industry stakeholders are already anticipating broader contractual reforms, including clauses that safeguard the right of third-party documentation and ensure transparent record retention policies. These measures, once optional checklist items, are quickly becoming industry norms as stakeholders absorb the lessons of a trial reshaped by 14 minutes of corridor video and synchronized metadata. Financial markets have reacted modestly to the developments, but analysts predict that corporate sponsors and partners will continue to distance themselves from controversial figures, prioritizing brand safety over association with high-risk individuals. The ripple effects of this case will undoubtedly reshape the way high-profile events are managed and regulated moving forward. So, what happens next? As the world watches with bated breath, the question remains, will justice prevail, or will this become yet another chapter in the never-ending saga of untouchable elites who seem to operate above the law? One thing is certain, this trial isn't just about Sean Diddy Combs. It's far bigger than one man. At its core, it's a reckoning that forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about power, privilege, and exploitation in ways we haven't seen before. This case shines a glaring spotlight on the hidden mechanisms of fame and influence, revealing how access, wealth, and connections can shape narratives and outcomes. For decades, stories of excess, coercion, and manipulation have swirled around figures like Diddy, but now, those whispers are being tested in a court of law. Whether he walks free or faces severe consequences, the ripple effects of this trial will undoubtedly reverberate through the entertainment industry for years to come. Beyond the verdict, this case has already sparked broader conversations about accountability. Private event insurers are revising policies. Major labels are drafting stricter pre-event protocols, and advocacy groups are pushing for legislative reforms to protect performers at private gatherings. These changes signal a seismic shift in how high-profile events and the people involved are managed and monitored. As closing arguments approach, both sides are refining their narratives, framing the evidence either as irrefutable proof of misconduct or as misinterpreted fragments of ordinary celebrity hospitality logistics. But regardless of how the jury rules, the mere existence of authenticated footage from Justin Bieber's archives underscores an undeniable reality. Personal records and digital footprints can play pivotal roles in modern legal battles. This realization alone could reshape corporate governance, contract clauses, and transparency standards across industries. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. With so much at stake, not just for Diddy, but for the future of accountability in Hollywood, this is one trial you simply won't want to miss. The outcome may redefine not only Diddy's legacy, but also the boundaries of power and justice in the public eye.